Man, some coaching shakeups in the SEC, and they may affect Alabama.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. We'll talk about Game Time here in just a little bit. I want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks, everybody, for making this your first lesson. Listen every single day. You guys are the absolute best, as I just figured out I wasn't using my right microphone, and I fixed it. I hope it sounds better. So, Jimmy, wow, earthquakian news last night in the college football world as LSU has parted ways with Brian Kelly. Look, it's the old Sun Tzu thing, right? If it must be done eventually, it must be done immediately. And so I feel like this is probably the right call. It wasn't going to work. I mean, Ed Orgeron, Les Miles, Nick Saban, everybody else was winning national championships and winning SEC titles, and Brian Kelly hadn't peed a drop. So the personality fit was wrong. I think I said this yesterday. He is the epitome of what every other ethnicity thinks white people are all the time. He can't relate to anybody else, it feels like. I can't believe he was able to recruit the way he was to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ways to look at it. I think his overall one-loss record is still pretty impressive, something like 34-14. Almost not too different than Nick Saban's, when he was at LSU. It's not far off from that at all. But he couldn't win championships. On the one hand, I completely get this because this was always a really terrible cultural fit. And I think when it's a bad cultural fit, it doesn't take a lot of failures to get everyone against this at LSU. I mean, it was easy to get LSU people to turn on Brian Kelly because he wasn't one of them. He wasn't trying to fit in. He was just a poor cultural fit, which meant he had to win big or it wasn't going to work. And he was not winning big. He was just winning. And by that, I mean, I think 34-14. Now, I will say this, though. He is a good football coach. Nothing that happened at LSU changes my mind over that. He's won everywhere he's been. He's won in big places. He's won in small places. I'm pretty sure it's the first time he's ever been fired because he just kept winning his way up the ladder, right? I'm interested in who LSU, Penn State, and Florida think is not only an upgrade, but a $50 million upgrade. I mean, they're paying Brian Kelly $50 million to leave. You need a $50 million upgrade.
Now, wouldn't it be a $100 million upgrade?
Essentially? Yeah. Ultimately, when you pay the new guy.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, and we're talking about an upgrade over, I think, one of the winningest active coaches in all of college football. And I know some people are going to say, well, look at like John Summerall. I like Summerall too. I don't want him to end up at Auburn myself because I'm a believer when it comes to Summerall. He's been a head coach for 4 years of his whole life, and it's been at Troy and Tulane. Even that doesn't feel like an upgrade over someone that has coached a Power 4 level football team to the national championship game, to the semifinals, consistently with 10 wins over a couple of decades. To me, that's a gamble. It's a gamble. He's a gamble, whereas Brian Kelly's a little more of a proven commodity. But it wasn't working. They had to do something. And this job market's crazy. Luke says it's going to affect Alabama. I don't see how it doesn't. Alabama's got several coaches currently on staff that could potentially be head coaches elsewhere. When you say, yeah, but Ryan Grubb's not going to get the LSU job. No, but all these guys will come from somewhere. It's like dominoes. When John Summerall leaves Tulane, now Tulane's open. When Clark Lee leaves Vanderbilt, now Vanderbilt's open. I mean, it's going to create all these, just because you don't think Grubb and Womack are candidates at Penn State, LSU, and Florida, doesn't mean that they won't end up being candidates at another place that comes open because those jobs were backfilled. So, yeah, I think this head coaching carousel scramble somehow, some way is very likely to affect Alabama directly, to say nothing of the fact that Alabama's rivals are going to have new coaches, and that's who we're going to face on future Saturdays.
Well, first of all, it affects Alabama immediately because LSU's the next opponent, and they've already named Frank Wilson or Flip Wilson or somebody. I mean,
running back coach. And I wouldn't assume. I know there'll be a lot of those optimistic Alabama fans out there that go, "Okay, Brian Kelly's gone. LSU's going to quit." I wouldn't assume that.
Yeah,
it could go the other way. It could go the UCLA way. They fired Deshaun Foster. They're a completely different team in 7 on the positive ledger. It's not automatic. This LSU team's full of dudes.
Agreed. I hear what you're saying, and I'm usually the scaredy cat. I'm usually on that side. But let me say this about that now when you look back on the UCLA situation, who did they beat that everybody was like, oh my God, they're unbelievable? Who did they beat?
Penn State.
Penn State, that apparently ain't very good. And we thought they would be. And they laid down after the Oregon loss, and they have not picked themselves back up, and they fired their coach. So my point is this, that I feel like it is two separate things. I get the concern 100%. I'm just saying, I feel more like this. I feel like LSU is more likely to play worse than play better. It doesn't mean that they won't play better. I'm just saying now it affects Alabama immediately because they're the next team on the schedule. It affects Alabama long term because number one, now you got to go up against another guy that you're recruiting against. It probably, I know Elijah Haven, LSU hadn't exactly been right in the middle of his recruitment, but you always think they're a threat because of where he is. So it helps there. It also helps with some other dudes. And also, I mean, maybe Alabama wants to look at that roster and say, hey, who may want to come over here? So, I mean, there are a lot of positives here for Alabama. It also affects Alabama by association in the sense that, now that LSU is open, I think it's much less likely that Auburn's going to open, unless Auburn just loses to Kentucky and gets blown out by us and blown out by Vandy or something. I think Hugh Freeze has probably bought himself another year because everybody else is getting fired. Because you think Auburn wants to jump in that swimming pool? I mean, ESPN's already put out who they think are which jobs are the best jobs. They have LSU 1, which I agree with. They have Penn State 2, which I disagree with. I'd probably put Florida 2 due to resources, and then Florida 3, and then it goes to Oklahoma State. If Auburn were to open, and let's assume there are no other openings, which is a crazy assumption at this point in the game. If Auburn were to open, they would at best be the 4th best opening, at best, because LSU, Penn State, and Florida are all better than that job. And nobody's going to debate otherwise, even the most ardent Auburn fan. So I think that it affects, another Alabama rival in Auburn. It has this ripple effect throughout the league that is just bananas.
And Auburn's situation illustrated by this: 1 year ago, Auburn was very, very close to landing Lane Kiffin. That almost happened 1 year ago. It didn't, but it almost, I say 1 year ago, the last time around Auburn was making a head coach hire, they almost landed Lane Kiffin. Now Lane Kiffin, this time around, Auburn won't be involved in the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes. There is a Lane Kiffin sweepstakes going on between Florida, top of the list at Florida, LSU, top of the list at LSU, Ole Miss willing to mortgage and spend everything they have on this planet Earth to keep Lane Kiffin. I don't know where Lane's going to end up. He could seriously end up at Florida or at LSU or stay at Ole Miss. I just know this: Sexton would have to fumble this for Lane Kiffin not to walk out of this the highest paid coach in college football.
That is so true. And, if you're a lip reader, you saw where Lane Kiffin the other day after the Oklahoma game was telling people, the Ole Miss fans that he went and saw, I'm not leaving. Now, Tommy Tuberville also said, I'm leaving Ole Miss in a pine box. So Ole Miss has been, spurned before, but and burned. I don't know how the best way to say that. But the other thing I was going to say was, you're talking about Brian Kelly, 34-14, whatever he is. Not a horrible record, and most of his losses are very explainable. He doesn't have a loss to UAB like Nick Saban did, But I think it's not so much long-term results you're selling anymore. You're trying to sell hope. And so I think people would rather be like, look at James Franklin. If Penn State and LSU swap coaches, heck, I think it's a win-win. I really do. I think it's because I think Brian Kelly's better up there. I think he's a better cultural fit. And I think James Franklin's a better cultural fit down at LSU. So I think it could be win-win. And both of them were let go. But what you're selling is hope. So John Sumrall, to me, you bring him up. If I'm LSU and they've already made the comment that, hey, or at least some of the moderators that are close to the situation have said, hey, LSU's going for somebody that is energetic and young and, with it and hip and player friendly and all those things. John Sumrall is that dude.
And he's in their state right now. I mean, he's the head coach of Tulane. He's right there in their state. They're getting a really close look at him every week.
Yep, exactly. So I just feel like you're selling hope versus results anymore. And that's just so weird considering how much money's at stake. And look, we got to go to break, but I'm here at my office at Robinson Iron. We're talking about a project that would be one of the largest projects we've ever done. It's several $1 million, but not a crazy amount, but I mean, it's several $1 million, and we're like scratching and clawing, trying to get this job. And there would be so many people involved, and there's so much paperwork, so much to go through. And Brian Kelly stinks and gets $53 million to go away. And it's sort of like, I chose the wrong profession, yo.
$736,000 a month until 2031.
That is bananas. And again, I'm not here to take food out of anybody's mouth. I'm not, but something about that doesn't seem right. So anyway, college football, y'all know it's not only back, it's been here. And I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues and hidden fees and prices jumping up at checkout, all that junk. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives advantage back to the fans. Jimmy, you were going to use Game Time for a concert. How'd it go?
I'm still looking, and it is going to happen. It's going to happen.
Via Game Time.
Hadn't pulled the trigger yet, but it's going to happen via Game Time, thanks to Game Time.
So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download Game Time today. Jimmy Stein guarantee. I want to talk about some more of South Carolina and actually talk about some Alabama second half woes that are interesting to me. I just thought about this. But first of all, I got to tell you, Jimmy, we brought it up yesterday how badly apparently Disney's having some budget cuts because their graphics for that Alabama game. I mean, somebody's got to tell me who approved this. Who approved this? Because that person needs to be fired and not get $53 million. I mean, and I tweeted it out, and somebody said, you know what it looks like? It looks like when George Costanza had somebody put his picture in because he was worried that his boss would find out it was him who they threw all this stuff in the ocean. You know anyway, I know what I'm talking about. But okay, so second half was I thought about this on the way down to work today, that it feels like Alabama gets going pretty good early, and then in the second half, now it's not as bad as I thought when I actually put the pen to paper, but maybe it's hidden bad. Okay, for instance, against Florida State, we scored 7 in the first half, but 10 in the second half. But by the time we scored the 10, it was sort of everything was done. In Wisconsin, we scored 21 in the first half and 17 in the second half. I discounted ULM. That didn't matter. Georgia, we very famously scored 24 and then 0. Yeah. That one stands out to me. Vandy, we scored 14 in the first half, 16 in the second half. But if you remember, we scored 7 incredibly late, just trying to really run the clock out. So we really only scored 9. Missouri, we scored 17 in the first, 10 in the second. Tennessee, we scored 23 in the first, 14 in the second. And against USC, we scored 14 in the first, 15 in the second, but those 15 came in the last 3 minutes. So It's just like, what is going on at halftime? Are other people making adjustments? Or I don't understand why we're having some complications in the second half.
My first answer. I do think the adjustment thing that's a factor for sure. We're getting maybe out adjusted. That's a factor, and we have to admit that that's very possible. I also think it might be a product of the run game. A lot of offensive coordinators, and myself, notably not an offensive coordinator nor qualified to be one, even at the local middle school. But I think a lot of offensive coordinators subscribe to something that I believe in, which is a motto that says, throw to the lead, run to the win. What that means is come out very aggressively, throw the ball down the field, be very aggressive, build a lead, and then once you have a lead, use the run game and the clock to end the game. Alabama can't run the football. Alabama can't run the football. Throw to the lead, run to the win is problematic when you cannot run the football. So that comes to mind to me also, is why Alabama's not putting teams away in the second half, because the old Saban anaconda python type offense was, once Alabama had a lead, it was over, because not only would Alabama use the clock to run the game out, Alabama's running game was pounding you into giving up additional second half touchdowns because they could run the ball so well. I think it's a product of that, and a product of the fact that you're playing nothing but good teams. I mean, the schedule is brutal. I haven't looked it up today, but I doubt it dipped after South Carolina. Alabama still probably played the second toughest schedule in all of college football. Some of it is just, hey, these are really good opponents that are also trying to win playoff spots for themselves in most of these cases, and they're not going to quit until there's zeros on the clock. So I think it's all of those things, but I really look at failure to run the football as a big explanation for it.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Now, I'll say this in the next half of the season, and I'm going to say next half because we played 8 games, and here I am hoping we play at least 16. So I think we have 8 more games. That's what I'm hoping. And I think Daniel Hill may be making a difference in that now, because here's what I love. I would love to have Jam Miller start because, again, we all love Jam Miller, and he's sort of the soul of the team. We appreciate that. We also recognize he's going to get you probably at max 50 yards a game. Max. Okay. Daniel Hill now, I mean, with his ability to catch the football and make some things happen, it's a few games in a row that he's made some big plays. He caught a touchdown against Missouri. He had a nice run for a touchdown to really seal it against Tennessee. And then this game, he was our leading receiver with 70-something yards. So he's really coming on. And now we can maybe play Kevin Riley as the third down back that can, maybe get a screen or maybe run a wheel route or whatever. Now, Daniel Hill can do that too. But what I'm saying is we go from Jam Miller, who's limited to a degree, but also the soul of the team, 100%. And then you go to Daniel Hill, who's probably now, I think, the most talented of the backs. And then you also got a change of pace in Kevin Riley. I think we may have found our rotation.
Yes, notable to me. I'm glad you brought that up. Jay Miller and Daniel Hill both played 33 snaps, I think it is, in the game. They had 50-50 snap share. Now, Jam started the game and remains what I would call our RB1, but 50-50 snap share means you have co-starters, as far as I'm concerned. Kevin Riley played very little. But one thing about the run game I need to bring up, snap share, since we just talked about it. I've said I think a lot of our run game problems is schematic. And this is in part what I mean by that. We're playing very little 12 personnel. Very little. We're in 11 personnel right now. That means 1 running back and 1 tight end. For those that don't know, 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. We're in that almost exclusively these days. That doesn't make life easy on the running back. Think of the old college football days. We used to put a fullback in front of the running back. To help the running back out, you had a fullback line up directly in front of him to clear traffic. We don't play with fullbacks anymore. Almost no one does. NFL, by the way, is bringing back the fullback. College will eventually. But college football doesn't have fullbacks anymore. Nobody plays with fullback. So what you've done to replace the fullback in college football largely is 2 tight ends. You either line them up on either side of the line or you move one guy around. But you use 2 tight ends, that second tight end, replacing the old role of the fullback. Well, Alabama doesn't play 2 tight ends very much right now. Alabama's just playing 1 tight end. So you're not helping the running back when you're in 11 or 10, which means no tight ends. That does happen too, but Alabama's principally in 11 personnel. That doesn't do the running back any favors. There's no one out there specifically assigned to help the running back like a fullback or second tight end does. So everyone needs to keep that in mind when we're talking about why the running game isn't working great.
Alabama basketball tips off 1 week from today, and yesterday they played another exhibition game. How'd they look? I'm going to tell you about FanDuel now because FanDuel is awesome. You know it is. I ain't got to tell you. You've probably played it so much you don't even know what to do. It's great. FanDuel is the best out there, and the NBA is also back, by the way. And there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same game parlay for a shot at bigger payouts. It keeps everything exciting. It's like just hanging around Jimmy Stein all the time. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your first game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So Alabama had another exhibition last night. Their second and final exhibition against Furman, played at Furman. It was fine. Alabama ends up winning by 25. I watched a lot of it online. And what I didn't know, I did not know this, we didn't dunk the ball one time against Florida State. Now, we dunked it twice in this game, but it's just, and again, that's not like some weird stat that should have everybody concerned. But it's just like in this day and age when everybody dunks all the time and we only have 2 dunks in 2 games, that's kind of weird. But it was nice to see Latrell Wrightsell sort of get back on track. I think John Rothstein or one of the basketball guys tweeted out like, hey, Wrightsell looked good. He had 12 points for Alabama, and if he gets going, this team's going to be trouble. Aiden Holloway, another nice game. Houston Millette had several threes. He started out 3 of 3 in the second half or something. Allen, boy, that guy, he's got 9 rebounds. He had double-figure points. He's really turning into a star. And Noah played in this game, and he was good. He set some nice screens. What did stand out to me, and this is what I'd heard about him, was that his lack of athleticism will be glaring compared to everybody else on the court. And it was. I mean, there were times it just looked like he was almost clumsy. So, but regardless, he was not bad, though. I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's a good player. It's just compared to everybody else, he looked like a different animal.
Coming from the Patriot League to the SEC, I mean, that's a lot like going from the accounting firm to MTV or something, where you're like, I'm not sure about the fit there. But
what you're going to say, the accounting firm to Cheetah 3, I think that would have been better in Atlanta. For those who know, if you know, you know.
So yeah, he is kind of an odd fit in the Nate Oates run and gun type offense. As far as not dunking the ball, I mean, I think it's going to be not something that we dwell on a lot over the course of the season, but I think it's what happens when you're guard happy. Alabama's guard heavy, guard intensive. I think there'll be a lot of times that Philon, Holloway, and Wrightsell are all on the floor at the same time. You're not dunking the ball a lot. You're not dunking the ball a lot when that's 60% of the lineup and they're taking almost all the shots, because their shots, they might attack the rim, but those are generally going to be layups generally and not dunks. Philon will certainly dunk it, but I don't think, if you're a huge fan of the slam dunk, I don't think this Alabama team is for you. But that said, I don't think it's something we're going to dwell on a lot, because all that matters is how much you score, and this team's going to score a lot because it's an excellent shooting team.
It's not Phi Slamma Jamma. It's did he make a layup?
There'll be a lot of layups and a lot of threes. Those fans of the three-point shot, this is your Alabama team. Again, with Philon, Wrightsell, and Holloway all on the floor at the same time, it's a three-palooza.
Yeah, it is. And look, I'm going to miss 100% Cliff Amori, like just every now and again, you're like, oh my God, there's no way he can dunk that. Oh God, he dunked it. We won't have any of those moments. And we won't have any scenario Hillmans, I don't think, for those who remember.
Old Bowen is going to get quite a few dunks.
Okay.
But even he, I think, prefers to live out on the 3-point line for a guy who plays the 4. He's a stretch 4 in every sense of the word. And I don't think he's going to be under the basket a lot. But when he is, he's going to dunk a lot. He's got long arms and a pretty good leaper. And so Bull Bowen is probably going to lead this team in dunks, him and Aiden Sherrill. But Sherrill's not going to be a high-volume scorer. I think he might be by the time he's a senior. But for now, he's just not a high-volume scorer. Now, I would say half his points will come via dunk. But, what are we going to get out of him? I would guess somewhere around 6 or 8 points a game.
Man, and another thing, I was just looking at the schedule because we open up with North Dakota, which is the return game next Monday at home. And then we travel to St. John's, a game I'm planning to go to in New York. And then we welcome in Purdue, who's going to be the number 1 team in the country. And then we travel to Illinois. And then we play in that Vegas tournament, which, again, I'm planning to go to that too. And we play UNLV. And who do we play first? Gonzaga. So, I mean, honestly, Jimmy, this team could start like 2-4.
Nate said that we weren't going to. At one point, I remember him saying we might relax on the schedule a little bit. They did not. They did not. The schedule is insane. But hey, ever since Nate has made these insane schedules, Alabama's responded with high seeds and Elite 8 runs. It's clearly done nothing but help the program. We just can't, as a fan base, freak out when you lose some of these non-conference games. It's going to happen. The competition's just too steep. You have to look at it like this is getting us ready for a March tournament run. Don't just freak out over November and December losses. It's going to happen.
All right, that's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.